Day 2, North Hall, we have Ben Rosario, and if anybody follows running, Northern Arizona Elite is a great team down in Northern Arizona.
Yep.
And Ben Rosario is the founder of the team, the coach of the team, and what Ben really brings, though, to this audience and the perspective he has, aside from being an elite running coach, is that you've really been in a lot of parts of the business. You've owned a running retail store. You've coached professional athletes. You've coached beginner athletes.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
You yourself are a runner.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
I've been a special events director, you know, kind of just done a little bit of everything. Yeah, put on a race director, so yeah.
A lot of the same things that I know everybody here has a part in or directs or coaches.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ben, for taking the time to be with us today. If you guys have a question in the middle of the talk, just raise your hand. I'll bring you the mic. We just want to make sure and get everything recorded so that we have the audio for everybody to listen to afterwards. Otherwise, we'll make sure and have a Q&A at the end as well. So save your question or ask it in the middle, but thank you, Ben.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me, Training Peaks. Thanks to all you guys for being here. I think you're a step ahead of your competitors being at this clinic. Over the years, clinics that I've gone to for whatever industry I've been in at the time have always kind of served not only as a chance to learn, but a chance to be inspired and motivated. And I think we all kind of need that kick in the butt now and again. Even the people among us who are very passionate about what we do still need to kind of come to these sorts of things and leave like really fired up. So hopefully after my speech, you'll be really fired up. But like Ryan said, I definitely have wore a lot of hats in the running industry. Really everything you could almost possibly do, I think. And I'll tell you my story in a second because I do think it's valuable to the talk I'm giving because pretty much everything I've done in this industry is a direct result of relationships and partnerships that I've been able to build. But I did want to kind of get a feel for my group here. I'm kind of a storyteller when I talk, so I can take this in a few different directions. How many of you are triathlon coaches? Okay. How many running? And how many cycling? Okay, so I'm guessing there's a mix because there was a lot of hands that went up all 3 times, so that's good. I think we can work with that. So my background is this. Much like many of you, I started young as an athlete, running in grade school and high school. I was pretty good in high school, but I worked really hard. I mean, I feel like that was always my MO. Hopefully still is my MO in business. But, you know, I was good enough to get a scholarship to a Division II school. Went to Truman State University in northeastern Missouri, near Iowa. Tough place to run in the winter, but, you know, it made us tough, I guess. Was pretty good there. I was All-American in Division II, but again, nothing really great. But I did work very, very hard and was very fortunate to get a spot on the Hansons-Brooks Distance Project team. So you guys know that team? So I ran there from 2003 to 2005 when they were really just getting going. Since then, you might know that they've put Brian Sell on the Olympic team in 2008 in the marathon, and Desi Linden made the Olympic team in 2012 in the marathon. Desi was runner-up at the Boston Marathon in 2011 in a sprint to the finish. It was super cool. And I know Des and her husband very well. But during that time when I was there, I was trying to run fast. I was doing okay. I was the youngest qualifier at the Olympic Trials Marathon in 2004 and got to run all over the country and, you know, national championship events. And it was super fun. It was a great 2 years. But the world of professional distance running is a very small world. You only make money if you're really, really good. So I hesitate to even say I was a professional runner. I was more a semi-professional runner. Certainly had a job that I really liked. Working at the Hansons running stores, which when you're a kid and you're growing up, it's kind of a light bulb when you have a job that you actually enjoy going to. That was kind of a cool new experience for me. I never had a job that I enjoyed till then, so that was kind of cool. But in the summer of '05, I kind of had that moment where I was like, man, I'm just not making any money. You know, maybe I need to start thinking about doing something else. And literally one day I went on monster.com and typed in running, because I don't really know anything else. And the first job that came up was the special events director for the St. Louis Marathon, which St. Louis is my hometown. So I thought, well, this is kind of fate or destiny or something. So I applied for the job, got the job, moved back to St. Louis, but I still wanted to run fast or hard or train hard and all that. So that fall, actually, the U.S. Marathon Championships were in Minneapolis as a part of the Twin Cities Marathon, and I got second place there, and I won $20,000, which was more than I had won in the 2 years when I was running for Hanson. So go figure, you know. But that was really huge for me. I took that money and went into business with a very good friend of mine from college, Matt Helbig, and we were kind of working behind the scenes while I was working at the marathon, and we started a running store, Big River Running Company in St. Louis in August of 2006. So I was just 26 years old. It was a huge risk. And when I'm telling all these stories, I want you to think about how, I want you to put yourself into these situations. Ultimately, we all tell stories because the people in the room it kind of stirs up your own memories and your own situations and things. So taking a huge risk is something that I think we all need to do if we're going to be successful. And we certainly did that. We scrounged up $60,000 to start this store, which is way low. You're supposed to have about $250,000 from all the books and internet searches that you do. But that's what we did. We scrounged it together, and we worked our asses off. I mean, is what we did, And the first Saturday in business, I remember this because we had less than $10,000 in the bank after we had spent all the money on inventory and all this kind of stuff. But we did $9,000 in sales the very first day, very first Saturday that we were open, which is a good Saturday for a run specialty store. And we got off to a great start. I mean, we opened a second store 2 years later, a third store 2 years after that, and it was all a whirlwind. I mean, it was totally crazy. But after 5 years, 6 years, it was getting to be too much for me. I had a wife and a daughter, and had just become obsessed, with the stores. I think in my entire time there, I took one vacation. That was my honeymoon. That was it. Pretty much worked every single day. And, it's fine. I mean, I wouldn't do it any different because that's how you're all entrepreneurs, and that's kind of how you have to be. But in March of 2012, I ended up selling my half of the business to my business partner, who was better than I was at being able to step back and take a vacation and relax a little bit now and again, in a good way, and I really mean that. And all of you are the same way. You're very passionate about what you do, but what I learned from Matt and what you can learn from Matt is that sometimes you do have to take some time for yourself and relax a little bit. So he was good at that. I wasn't. He still has the store, and he's kicking butt big time, and he has a fourth store, and he has a huge race management business, and he's doing awesome, and I'm really proud of him. But I ended up moving to Flagstaff, Arizona at that time, and did marketing for an online coaching company, McMillan Running Company, in Flagstaff for a year. So I think I know your industry pretty well also from that experience. So I understand that side of things. And then kind of organically started coaching some athletes in town. There's a lot of good athletes in Flagstaff, good runners especially, and started working with some of them in a coach-athlete relationship, and we started having some success. And at the end of 2013, I had a group of about 6 to 8 really, really good athletes, and we kind of said, my wife and I said, well, let's just do this, So we invested a lot of our own money into the team, Northern Arizona Elite, and started having really good results. Matt Yano, who's one of our original members, ran 1:01:47 in the half marathon the first month that we had launched the team. So it was kind of really good for us to establish some credibility. It was one of the top 20 times ever for the U.S. in the half marathon. And then a month later, Amy Van Alstyne came here to Boulder and won the U.S. Cross Country Championships. She beat Jenny Simpson, who's from Boulder, so that's kind of nice, or lives in Boulder. But anyway, we had that. Kellen Taylor won a national title on the 25K, and we started kind of rolling. And that's kind of how business goes, sports goes that way, life goes that way. You start building positive momentum, and good things happen. And we were fortunate that that's what happened to us. We brought Training Peaks on as a sponsor that summer, which was awesome. We were really working hard to build nice sponsorship proposals, build partnerships with like-minded companies and individuals. And then in February of this past year, Hoka 11, the shoe company, came on as our title sponsor, and the world has really changed for us since then. They pay me, they pay the team. There's a great bonus. We really have one of the best deals in the country, and it's a long-term deal, and we're super fortunate. So hopefully we can come through for them and for Training Peaks and all our supporters moving forward. But that's kind of where I am at now. But I'll come back to what I said at the beginning. All of that is because I built relationships with people, built partnerships in every one of those different worlds that I lived in. That's what I did, and that's how I got to where I am. It's not really because of me. It's because of the people I surrounded myself with. I'm a big believer, again, in life in general, that if you surround yourself with successful, driven, intelligent, A-type, loyal people, then you'll be just fine. And you got to be learning from those people. What's that? They say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room, right? And I definitely don't feel like the smartest person in this room. I know you guys are brilliant and very good at what you do. So hopefully we'll learn some things. Here we go. So Training Peaks, this is my first time giving this particular talk. I've given a lot of talks, but they suggested starting with a quote, and so I thought, well, let's do that. Let's start with a quote. So this is a quote from a guy. I'll explain him in a minute. So at the meeting, I listened intently, and my impressions were, this guy can talk. But Ben had more than this basic qualification. He had passion. And from that moment onward, I had a feeling of excited calm and the roots of belief. This is a guy named David Carruthers. So David was a guy, and this quote came from a talk I gave on a cold January morning in St. Louis, the Midwest, nasty, cold winter day. The Go St. Louis Marathon brought me in to speak to their training group. They were getting ready for their spring marathon. And there was about, I don't know, maybe 30 people there, maybe 40 people there. And, I gave like a 10-minute, 15-minute talk on running, and getting excited about running, and nutrition, and, what to wear, and shoes, and all that kind of stuff, the standard talk for a run specialty store owner. And didn't think too much of it. But ended up seeing this guy a couple days later in the store. He came in with his wife, and they walked in. They didn't park. And the way the store was, you could see out, and you could always see when people parked and they came in. And so I didn't know where they really came from. It was like they came out of nowhere. They just walked up, and he had a thick Scottish accent. I was like, who is this guy? This is St. Louis. This is not New York City. We don't have a lot of foreign people coming to St. Louis to live. So this guy was super interesting. And so we talked for like an hour. He buys shoes, and then he calls a cab to go back to his place. Another weird thing. This does not happen in St. Louis. This guy's, So I was like, well, I have to look him up, because we get their name and, address and stuff when they buy shoes. So I typed him into Google, and he's like an international businessman. And he was in town and ended up being in town for the next 3 years. And we built a great relationship, became super good friends. He came to that original talk on that cold January morning because he was overweight, like a lot of people do. He had run in high school, but now he was 49, 50 years old, hadn't run since, and wanted to get back into it, and he thought that would be a good way to lose weight. Well, yeah, sure enough. He started coming to all our group runs. We built a relationship with him, with his wife. He did lose all that weight. He ran a sub 5-minute mile when he was 50 years old, which was kind of cool. He's a good friend. We went to the Moscow World Championships together in 2013 and hung out and watched the races together. Just a great dude overall. And while I didn't build a partnership with David in business, I certainly could. If I wanted to call him up today and had some idea, some crazy, goofy idea, he would probably go for it in a second, and we could do something together. And that's why I keep coming back to relationships, because that's how partnerships grow from relationships. It's very difficult, I feel like, for you guys, and we'll get into some specific examples, but to just cold call somebody and say we should work together. That's a very difficult thing to do. Another difficult thing to do is to say no to someone who you know and respect and admire and like. And I think that's why we have to cultivate these relationships with people before we get to that partnership level. I think that's really important, and I'll talk about that as we move on. So, to me, I know that we live in a digital world, and I'm sure you've gotten talks on social media, maybe this week, and Facebook is important, and Twitter is important, and Instagram is important, and all those things are important, and I do all those things and study all those things as well. But for me, maybe I'm old school, I still believe in face-to-face interaction. I believe that the relationships you build talking to someone and looking them in the eye go way deeper than interacting with them on Twitter in 140 characters or less. That's just what I believe. That's been my experience, and that's certainly something I would encourage you to think about and do. The PEP method is something I've talked about at many talks and clinics that I've given in the past, and that's just how to interact face-to-face with people. People want to be around positivity, okay? Yes, you're experts in your field, and yes, you can talk when you give a talk about cycling or triathlon or running, and you can come off as an expert, but you also have to be positive. You have to bring energy. You have to bring passion. People gravitate toward those type of folks. Even cynical people who are party poopers and boo-hooers, they don't like to be around other people like that. They still like positive people. They just themselves are a little cynical. But that's who you have to be. That's the type of person you have to be when you give a talk, like I'm giving now. That's the type of person you have to be when you're having coffee with someone or a beer with someone in the industry. When you're building these relationships, you have to be positive. You have to have energy. You have to have passion. But I added the second two Ps for this talk and a couple others because I think you also need to understand this industry, which I'm sure you do. But it's been my experience that, yes, this is a profession. And it's a growing profession. It's a competitive profession. And it's a fun profession, but it's a personal profession. You know, when we went to the happy hour last night, everybody's in jeans and T-shirts and plaid shirts, okay? They're not all buttoned up. They don't have the sport coats on, all right? It's a personal business. Use that to your advantage, you know? When you're interacting with people face-to-face or even via email or things like that, use a personal tone. Be conversational. I think coming from my perspective as a former running store owner, I was much more apt to work with someone who had that kind of tone and feel to them, as opposed to someone who sent me a very formal email, hello, Mr. Rosario, blah, 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 you know, and I'm 27 years old at the time. I'm not Mr. Rosario, you know. So I just think that that's the type of people that your clients want to work with, and I think that's not my talk. My talk is about building partnerships, but I think that's also the type of person that future partners want to work with. That's the type of person that people want to be around, and always remember that, you know. This isn't a talk on coaching, but I mean, I think that's your job as a coach, you know. As much as the nuts and bolts, probably more so than the nuts and bolts, is to create a positive environment where your athletes are motivated and inspired on a constant basis. That's what I think you're trying to do. And really, I'll just end with this. Every long-lasting, real partnership that I've ever built in the industry has been such a direct result of face-to-face interaction. And I'll use an example. Our agent, so my team, we have an agent, Josh Cox. I don't know if you've heard of Josh, some of you. Josh was a good athlete back in his day in the early 2000s, ran 2:13 in the marathon a couple of times, which is okay. It's not great, as he would tell you. But the guy, oh, it sounds great. Sorry. Let's bring it relative to professional distance runners. He didn't make an Olympic team, top 10 at a couple USA championships, those kind of things, pretty good. But he was brilliant at marketing himself and building relationships in the industry. He never turned down a talk. He spoke all over the place. He became a great brand ambassador. At one time, he had 7 different sponsors that were all paying him bonuses for every race he did. He ran one marathon, one of his good marathons. He got over $100,000 in sponsorship bonuses alone just from that one race, which is really big in the running industry. Most runners don't even make that in a year, and he made it in one race, and he wasn't even the best guy in the country. He was making more than many people that were much better than him. And he believes in this to the level that when we were working with Hoka to try to get this big deal, he pushed hard because he knows he can close a deal, you know, face to face. So he really pushed hard for the sports marketing director from Hoka to come to Flag to meet our group. And she was like, well, you know, I'd like to come, but the only really day I can come is Monday. They're talking on a Saturday. He goes, do it. Book a flight. I'll see you there. So she books a flight. He gets in his car, drives from, because that was the quickest way. He wanted to get to Flagstaff as quick as possible. He drove from Mammoth to Flagstaff, met with me on Sunday. We got ready. We prepped. We met with her on Monday, and 2 weeks later, we had the deal. That's face-to-face interaction. We could have tried a Skype session or done something over the phone. We wouldn't have got the deal. Face-to-face interaction is what got us that huge deal, and it's, you know, hopefully what pays me for many years to come. So that's why I say just say yes. Josh never turned anything down. That's how I built my business in St. Louis. I said yes to everything. to the point where I eventually had to leave. But I said yes to everything. No opportunity is too small. No opportunity is too big. For you guys as coaches to be able to speak at a clinic, an expo, I don't care if it's 20 people at a health fair, is big. I know a lot of you guys do a lot of your business online, and you have clients all over the world, but I still think there's a value to having at least some client base in whatever town you live in. Those are the people that you're going to be able to build the best relationship with. Those are the folks that you can do cool, creative stuff with, make videos, do testimonials, have them be kind of your loyal, hardcore base, and let the tentacles spread and use them to your advantage and that relationship that you have. And these are the types of places that you're going to find those folks. Corporate events. I mean, we had at the store, so again, we did all kinds of goofy stuff and said yes to everything. One of the things we said yes to, I don't think my partner wanted to, but I'm a big sports radio fan, for better or worse, and we signed up for like 6 months of advertising on this sports radio station with a guy I know that was one of the hosts or whatever, and I don't know if much came from the advertisements, but at the end of the year, they had a Christmas party, holiday party, and we went and we had a couple gift certificates as raffle prizes, right? And, you know, it was kind of just a bunch of drunk sports fans, you know, at this party. But anyway, one of the guys that won one of our gift certificates, a guy named Matt Gibbs, again, kind of overweight, young guy, but it was kind of I mean, it sounds kind of weird to say, but it was a turning point in his life. He won that gift certificate. He had been thinking about possibly trying to start losing this weight and possibly start exercising. So sure enough, he comes in the store, again, just like the David story. I talked to him, got some shoes. He ended up being, I'm not kidding you, our best customer of all time. He was such a loyal fan of the store, still is. Every time you see him in a picture on Facebook, he's in his Big River Running Company shirt. He was socially, he was outgoing. He helped us create a bunch of the different social events we did. He even created his own little like faction of Big River Running Company with, he called it the Wolf Pack. And it was all his friends that he drank with and ran with and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, he's spent thousands of dollars with us. And he's encouraged other people to spend money with us. And it was all because we went to this one little event that we could have not gone to. We could have said, we'll give you the gift certificates and don't worry about it. But no, I mean, we were there. You know, I met this guy at the party when he won the gift certificate. That's why he came into the store. I mean, it was just super cool. I mean, we have an opportunity to change lives in this industry. And I just think it would have never happened if we hadn't have said yes to that one little event. And for you guys, it's the same way. That's the same thing you could be doing in your community is going to all these events, making a difference in people's lives, but also getting clients, which is nice. And I had group runs and rides at the bottom because it's a segue into this next slide. Here's what I think. I don't know each of your situations, and I don't know where each of you are you know, in your business. Some of you are probably kicking butt and don't need to necessarily do what I'm going to talk about next, but maybe some of you are just getting started, or you're in a growth phase and you really are trying to figure out how to explode, right? Well, I said a few minutes ago that you need to ingratiate yourself into the community, right? You need to befriend people, build relationships. I'm not only going to talk about specialty stores, but I am biased, and I do think they do a good job. And I think if you want to build a partnership with a run specialty store, a triathlon shop, a bike shop, you've got to first become a part of their community. It's invaluable to spend time with these folks on the road, running, biking, going on a century ride, okay, these type of things. This is when you bond. You know this. I mean, this is either your best friends. This is what you do together. This is how you build relationships. And in the specialty world, bike shops, run shops, the group runs and rides are where those friendships are formed. And the specialty stores, they have so much credibility with their clients, their customers, right? Their word is gold. If you can get in with one of those shops and be their guy or their girl when it comes to triathlon coaching or bike coaching, run coaching, oh man, you've got clients that you wouldn't believe, okay? And I think in this industry in general, I know I've been guilty of this a time or two, we're very confident typically, people, especially, you know, you guys, you're here, you're doing a good job, and we think we know everything, and we think we can do everything ourselves, okay? But the truth of the matter is, we all need help, okay? And partnerships can be a way to explode your business, not grow it slowly. We don't want to grow it slowly. We want to explode. And these people have thousands of clients or thousands of customers that are there for the taking if you can build a relationship with them. The camaraderie that I talked about with Matt Gibbs and the Wolfpack and the social events, being at those parties, being at those things that they're doing, that's going to give you credibility with those customers. They see your face. It's like going to a movie, right? You don't go to a movie the first time you see a trailer for it. You go to it after 5 or 6 or 7 people tell you, you've got to go see this movie, you know? And that's the way it is with coaching and getting new clients. They're not going to necessarily sign on the dotted line and start paying you a couple $100 a month the first time they see you. Maybe they will, okay? But maybe they need to see you another time and another time. And maybe they need to speak a couple of times and hear people talking about you and hear your clients talking about you and those sorts of things before they finally take the jump. And I think a specialty store is just a great way to accelerate that process. If you're having trouble, if you're struggling creating a network for yourself and creating a fan base and creating basically exposure for yourself in your industry, then getting involved in a specialty store in your town is a huge way to kind of accelerate that process. And I'll talk about it in a minute, but you can be of value to them too. And I think that's the way, again, from an owner's perspective, you need to kind of approach it, is don't slap a proposal on their table before they even know you. First, get to know them, and then start the relationship slowly. I was talking to Michael before this talk today, and he was talking about, you know, just go in there and give one talk. Just say, hey, I was wondering if I could give a beginning triathlon talk at your store. And in exchange, you know, maybe whoever comes could get a small discount, but maybe that'll encourage them to buy something. You know, so give them something back, right? It's not, no partnership is a one-way thing, or it's not a good partnership if that's the case, you know? Obviously, you're you, and you want what's best for you, but you got to also take that help me, help you approach. How can I help you guys? You know, that's how a partnership works. That's how it gets started. And I think starting small, especially in this kind of world, is really good because, again, these people, we know what we're doing. We don't know if we wanted to bring anybody else into this circle. You know, I had a circle of people that I trusted, and it was very hard for me to bring people into that circle. I had to really believe in them, and it takes time for that belief to take hold. So I think doing those sorts of small things before you say, hey, you know what? You know, I've done 3 or 4 clinics. It seems to be going well. What do you think about working together and maybe doing some kind of partnership, and me being, you know, in my case, the official triathlon coach of Big River Running Company or whatever, you know? And nobody's going to say yes to that right off the bat. It takes a little time. Does that make sense? Okay. But it's not all about specialty stores. Even though that's the world I come from, I think you should think outside the box. So here's a little interactive piece here. What do these companies have in common? Chick-fil-A, Google, Pepsi, Training Peaks, Wells Fargo, and Verizon Wireless. Anybody? What do you think? They may, but that's not what I was thinking. Customers, people. This is good. I'm glad you're not getting this, actually. Maybe this will blow your mind. They all, at their corporate headquarters, have a fitness center. And they all encourage their employees at their headquarters to be fit, healthy people, right? And that got me to thinking when I was just kind of doing some research for this talk, you know, and thinking, putting myself in your shoes, why can't you get involved with one of these companies? If you live in a big city and there's a lot of big companies there, why can't you be the official running coach or biking coach for Chick-fil-A or Google or whatever it might be? They obviously believe in it. They obviously want their clients, or their, not their clients, their employees to be fit, healthy people and work for them for a long, long time, but they need expert guidance, and you're an expert. And I just think thinking outside the box like this is a good way to, again, create a situation where maybe your business explodes, you know? Or maybe you find a niche for yourself. Maybe being the, I don't know what they pay, maybe being the official trainer at Wells Fargo is a full-time job. You don't need to do anything else, and you could shut down trying to work on Facebook and Twitter and gain customers. Maybe that's all you need to do. But I'm just throwing this slide in there to remind you that you need to always be thinking ahead. Be ahead of the curve. Figure out ways to get ahead of your competitors, because it is a competitive industry. I was talking with Taylor right there. What was the quote? What was the stat about the 2,700? USAC, there's 2,700 coaches right now. That's a lot of competitors, you know? So you got to be finding ways to get ahead of those competitors. And, you know, thinking outside of the box is one of the ways to do that. So, but maybe Chick-fil-A is not the right partner for you. You have to find the right partner. And I got this little, yeah, it's supposed to be like a heart there, you see? Took that from Hoka's Instagram on Valentine's Day. It is like finding a partner, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. You have to do your homework on these people. Again, not all specialty stores are created equal. When you look at a company's mission and vision statement, somebody that you're trying to partner with, and maybe it's a fellow coach too, okay? Obviously, I didn't mention that, but you could, if person A has 15 clients and person B has 15 clients, and you're both trying to explode, maybe working together would be a way to explode. You know, we don't want to work together, but maybe that's the way to do it, okay? But you've got to do your homework on this person or this business. What is their mission statement? Now, here's the thing. Every coach and every specialty store, they're all going to have a similar mission statement. We want to help people. We want to be a part of the community. We want to be more than just a store, blah, 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 right? But they don't all actually do that, you know? And so you got to make sure, because this is your brand you're talking about. This is you. You don't want to align yourself with someone that doesn't have the same core values that you do. If you're a coach that believes in helping people and helping them improve and helping them grow, and you partner with a coach just because they have 100 athletes, but they're a machine, and they're just chewing people up and spitting them out, and they don't hold on to their customers. Maybe they're really good at advertising, but maybe they don't have a good personal connection, and that's not who you are, then maybe that's not the right person for you. That stuff is really important. So it's not just dollar signs. It's not how many clients can this person get me. It's can I see myself working with this person or this company? You know, personalities. Go find out who they are. You know, are your personalities going to mesh, or are you going to have trouble? And we don't all get along. It's a big world out there. I have some enemies. Everybody has enemies. Everybody has people they don't like. Okay, and there's some people that don't like you. All right, and so you. I hate to tell you that, but we gotta figure out if we're gonna mesh, right? If we're gonna be working together, because we need that long-term viability. That is a big problem in business, and it's a big reason people fold in all sorts of businesses, this one included. If you don't have a long-term viable plan, you may do okay for a while, but then you're gonna go downhill. Okay, so if you're partnering with somebody, you need to make sure that that person or that company is going to be around for the long haul. And we don't know for sure, but you got to, again, do your homework, figure out, go with your gut. You know, are we going to be able to do this for a long, long time together? And of course, as in any partnership, there's going to be compromise. You've got to figure out money things, obviously. You've got to think of branding things and how that's going to work and how your brand is still going to be strong if you're partnering with another brand. And that's my last slide. You are your own brand. To me, this is difficult. This piece is really difficult. If I was talking to a group of specialty store owners, I would probably tell them, hey, you should think about partnering with a coach that really knows what they're doing so that you can build your training team or whatever it is that you're working on to help build your customer base. But make sure you keep your brand strong. Don't let them hone in on your brand. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. So what I'm telling you is if you do partner with someone, be it another coach or be it a store or a business of any kind, you need to make sure that your brand is still going to be strong. And it's going to be what it always was and what you always wanted it to be. You have to be careful, but it can be done, and it can be mutually beneficial for both parties. I'll just kind of tell you what's going on right now in my business and in my life because I do think it's a good example here. So Hoka is invested in us. They're paying us a lot of money, and they want us to produce, and they want us to help raise their brand awareness in the world of marathon running and half marathon and road racing, where the masses are, you know? And that makes total sense. But I think that the best way for us to help them is to make sure that our brand continues to be very strong as well, Northern Arizona Elite. And there's several reasons for that. One of them is practical. When this contract comes to an end, and it will come to an end, I want them to renew, and I want us to be invaluable to them, and I want them to sign up right away without even thinking about it. But you know, that might not happen. And if that doesn't happen, then we need to make sure that we're not in a situation where all we did for 3 years was wear Hoka stuff and talk about Hoka stuff and just drop the Northern Arizona Elite piece. Okay? We got to have that piece remain strong. So much so, and we thought about this beforehand, to the point that in our contract it says we're going to get a different uniform than all the other Hoka 1-1 athletes. We're working on our own color scheme. We're working on things that are going to be able to live in the Northern Arizona Elite brand for a long, long time, whether or not we're with Hoka. And that's not us being mean to them or not a good partner. That's us just being smart. You know, when you go into a partnership, you've got to think about these things. Is my brand going to be able to remain strong even working with this other person or with this company? You know, if you're working with another coach, let's say you go 50-50 on a coaching partnership down the middle. Some of those things you got to think about are, what the heck are we going to call this thing? You know, because if your name was a part of your business, you don't want to drop that. You know, I'm a big fan of the individual, especially in this world, in your world, being the star. And that's my next little bullet point there, individual versus entity, right? I think an individual always has the potential to be a much bigger star than any entity, okay? So Jimmy Fallon, I love Jimmy Fallon. The Tonight Show. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger entity in the world of television in the United States. The Tonight Show as a brand, which it is a brand in and of itself, has been around since the 50s. It is one of the most popular television shows of all time. And yet, nobody calls it The Tonight Show. It's Jimmy Fallon. Did you watch Jimmy Fallon? In 2 years, I think, or whatever he's been doing it, I think he has 27 million Twitter followers. The Tonight Show has 2.6 million, okay? You as an individual have got to think of yourself as a brand. Even if the name of your coaching company doesn't have your name in it, it still needs to be synonymous with you. I would encourage you to have your name in it, but if you don't, it needs to be synonymous with you. People need to talk about you as a person, as an individual. I just think that's something that I just can't stress enough. It's how I built my business. I mean, it was me being in front of all these people and knowing me. They wanted to buy shoes from me. And I don't mean that to sound pompous, because that's what you do. They need to want to be coached by you. That's really, really important. You have to be a star in your world, in your network. The other thing that Jimmy Fallon does that I think we can all learn from is he's ahead of the curve. You know, he's doing things that nobody else is doing. And he's putting his competitors so far behind him, they're never going to catch up. I mean, with all the YouTube stuff he does and always keeping it fresh, the games that he plays on the show, always having the hottest, freshest stars and having them do weird things that they would never otherwise do and just goofy stuff, like that's speaking to his generation. And you've got to think, how can I speak to my clients? You know, what language do I need to speak to reach these people so that they can want to be a part of what I'm doing, you know, about my coaching world, my business. I think that's huge. And then the last slide, or the last bullet point, and then we can do Q&A, is think long term, right? So the Jordan brand. So that is one of the most iconic logos in the world of sports globally, if not the biggest, all right? And the Jordan brand I went with last because I think it sums up everything I've been trying to say about partnerships. So back in the 80s, Nike takes this chance on Michael Jordan, okay? And Michael Jordan, as I say his name now, didn't exude back in 1985 what it exudes now. Michael Jordan is, I mean, he's one of the most known people in the entire world, if not the most, okay? But in 1985, he wasn't. And Nike took a chance on this guy. But Nike is so brilliant. And sorry if you hate Nike. Sometimes I hate them, sometimes I like them. They're so brilliant because they saw the potential in this guy. They saw the potential in making him into a star. And they understood that making him into a star would help their brand. They weren't threatened by the fact that making him so big would somehow, what if he goes out on his own? What if he creates his own brand? They weren't scared about all that. They just knew that hyping this guy up was going to help their brand. An example on the other end of a company that I think gets that wrong is ESPN. You can tell I'm a big sports guy. But ESPN, when a star gets too big in their network, they fire him and get rid of him. They're scared. They don't want them to be bigger than the brand. I think that's a huge mistake. And it's proven to be a mistake time and time again when their people end up doing other stuff and taking ratings away from them. But the Jordan brand built slowly. At first, when Michael Jordan wore clothes, it was Nike. It was the Nike swoosh. Everything was Nike. Nike, 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 Nike. Okay? But over time, they started to realize that this particular image and Michael Jordan as an individual was becoming so strong that he didn't even need the Nike swoosh. And that's when the Jordan brand was born. And over time, it became so strong. Let me tell you some stats. 2014, the Jordan brand did $2.6 billion in sales. The Jordan brand. Okay? The Jordan brand has 58% of the current market in basketball shoes in the US. Not Nike. Nike overall, Nike plus Jordan brand, 95%. But the Jordan brand, one piece of the Nike conglomerate, has 58% of market share. Michael Jordan made $100 million last year off of the Jordan brand. $100 million. More than he made in his entire basketball career, adding up his yearly salary every single year combined. He makes more than every athlete in the world, current or retired, and he hasn't played basketball in 12 years. Okay? And again, you may think, how does this apply to me? Well, it applies to you because he and Nike have built this incredible partnership over time that is mutually beneficial. It's not just he thinking about himself. It's not just Nike thinking about themselves. It's them working together to build something incredible. And I think, we can all learn from that. So that's the Jordan brand. That's my talk. That's it.